Hey everyone, welcome to the Thursday edition of FreightWaves Now, straight from Freight Alley. Today we're going to hear from Donny Gilbert talking about the carrier update, but first, let's start off with a little shipper action. So on my first chart, I've got our outbound tender rejection index. For most of you that have followed FreightWaves Now, you know what an outbound tender rejection index is. It's the rate at which carriers are rejecting their electronic tendered freight. As this rate goes up, that means that there's going to be increased rate pressure. It's going to go up over time. Right now we can see clearly that this has moved way on down to 3.79% after peaking this year at, some would say, kind of a soft season. So it wasn't like the peak that we saw last year where tender rejection rates were actually up over 20%. Right now they've fallen all the way back down to almost record levels at 3.79%. That means that shippers are going to have a real easy time being able to send their freight over to their carriers and get those loads accepted. They don't have to spill over to the transactional market. If we go to my next chart, really the big theme of what's happened this year has been the pull forward, the tariffs. Los Angeles, the Port of New Jersey, New York, Savannah have all seen increasing record volumes over the last 12 months. Well, that trend is continuing into 2019 as we have increasing tariff concerns. What's happening right now, though, is that a lot of this volume is shifting to the East Coast. Last year, you can see here, this chart is showing outbound tender volume index for Los Angeles. Los Angeles had record volumes this year. They were 30–40% higher in the spring, and they're still continuing to be that level. But who's catching up is Newark. The Port of New Jersey over here is really starting to see an increase in inbound volume. So that means that a lot of shippers are starting to diversify their freight pattern. They're going to move to the East Coast. Something to keep in mind as we see increasing tariff concerns moving into the third and fourth quarter. Up next is Donny with a carrier update. All right, and now we have the AT&T Business carrier update with Donny Gilbert. Donny, what do you got for us today?
Today I brought you the drive-in tender rejection map, Zach. Looking at the our legend down here, you can see where the white markets are 0 to 3.29%, which is all this white is, right below our spot market rates are right below the contracted rates. The next shade of blue is 3.29% to 6.58%. These very light shades of blue through here, that's where the spot market is kind of even with contracted rates. And as we get darker, we go to 9.87, 6.58 to 9.87, 9.87 to 13. These are where the spot markets have gone above contracted rates. So right now, carriers need to definitely try to run towards the blue. But that's not always possible. So using our sonar maps, if you have to run a load when you get to these areas that are white, it's because your options have been limited. You need to look into these markets, dive into your charts, and figure out if you're getting the optimal rate for the area that you're running to. And once you get into these markets, you need to find out and try to run back to the blue where your options are greater.
So are you telling me that they need to run over here into like Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, or is that?
Well, some of these up here are a little bit darker blue in the higher regions because their volumes are so low.
Okay.
But now Iowa and getting on down into probably eastern Kansas and throughout the kind of the heartland here, these areas are still a good area for them to run into. Getting out on the West Coast, you start having a lot of, you get a lot of miles, but your rates are going to be a lot lower. The Midwest right now is a very strong area to keep your trucks running into. The Northeast, it's always weak in the Northeast. Nobody ever really wants to go in the Northeast. You get a lot of money going in, but here coming down the Northeast, you're $1.10 a mile, and so it's really tough. You want to try to get back down to the Pennsylvania area and then back over into the Midwest. But right now, probably one of the best areas to keep your trucks in is probably the Midwest area.
Right on.
But you do want to run out and you do want to run longer miles. I've also brought an update on the reefer tender rejection reports. The reefer has a lot more white in it, but looking at the legend, 0 to 8.79% is your white areas. So this is your areas that are below or right at contracted rates. And when you get into the blues, these are the areas where your rates are getting above, your spot market is getting above the contracted rates. You're a lot more limited right now on the reefer. We're past produce season. There's kind of one more season coming up that I'm looking forward to, and that's kind of keep an eye up here on Idaho. Potatoes, it's a little bit early, but yeah, coming up here in end of August, September, your fresh Idaho potatoes are going to be grown and they're coming to harvest. You can always pick them up year round because they're stored up there year round, but this is the actual harvest season. This is when it's going to pick up. If you're in Salt Lake City with a reefer, you're going to deliver, you're going to move your truck north, you're going to be deadheading a few hundred miles to get other loads and bring them out across the U.S.
And also apples
Apples are going on right
well,
now
right?
for Washington. So in the heartland here in the middle, we still got our poultry season. That's been running strong all year long. And over here on the East Coast, you got a little bit of your produce season still in the upper areas of the Southeast and kind of moving up into the Northeast a little bit. So again, run your trucks towards the blue, and when you get your options that, because of limited options, you're going to have to get in these areas where the markets aren't so strong. You look at those markets, dive into those markets, make sure you're getting an optimal rate, or you might just need to walk away. Once you get in there, get your truck and run back to the blue where you have more options and get you a long haul of what you need.
All right, carriers, you heard it. Run to the Midwest and the blue states.
Improve your fleet's efficiency with AT&T Fleet Complete, a 4G solution for tracking vehicles and simplifying ELD compliance. AT&T Fleet Complete, delivering fleet solutions for every business.
Welcome to FreightWaves Weather. It is Thursday, August 15th. We have, again, some problem areas on this summer day across parts of the United States. First, we'll talk about severe weather. There's potential for a good amount of severe storms as we head out again towards the plains just east of the Rocky Mountains, particularly in this highlighted yellow area here. So lots of interstates heading through areas, say Kansas City, and towards Wichita, Omaha, Sioux Falls, and over into parts of Wyoming. That's what we're expecting. Scattered to maybe even numerous thunderstorms developing that will turn severe. So they're going to drop some really large hail, as they have been in parts of the plains the last couple of days. As a matter of fact, Colorado a couple of days ago recorded its largest hailstone in recorded history at 4.83 inches in diameter. That's huge. And there'll be some big hail from storms in this part of the country again for today. And there'll also be areas of some really, really intense winds, possibly some flash flooding as well, and maybe even isolated tornadoes in this region of the country. Next, we'll go off to the east. We're not expecting a lot of severe thunderstorms along the eastern seaboard, but from Florida all the way up to the mid-Atlantic, we could see some isolated severe storms. There'll be some heavy rain in spots too, but the only flash flood watch, or flood watch rather, that's up right now is across parts of western Florida, the Tampa, St. Petersburg area down to around Fort Myers. So that area along Interstate 75, some other spots along I-95 from Savannah up to around the Outer Banks and maybe Virginia Beach could see some isolated and localized flash flooding from some just general thunderstorms today. Last, we'll go back out to the Pacific. A tropical storm Crosa is now moving through the southwestern part, just about to hit the southwestern part of the island of Honshu over in Japan. Not causing any major problems here as far as ocean vessels or at ports, but there could be minor delays at Osaka and maybe Nagoya port too. That's the largest port in Japan. Maybe just minor issues, short-term disruptions as far as cargo and container freight, but we don't expect anything major over there. That's going to continue to weaken as it moves into the Sea of Japan over the next couple of days. That's a look at the things you need to know as far as the weather for today. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and have a safe day.
My name's Kyle Cunningham, and it's time for your Thursday brokerage update. Let's take a look and see what's going on across the markets all around the USA. First off, jumping into Pendleton, Oregon, your refrigerated freight. So a lot of reefer freight still rolling out there, still some frozen stuff headed all across the country. The issue is the fact 16.2% on the rejection still is going to imply it is a carrier-dominated market. But what we got going on is a huge drop down and possibly a return to this white line here. That's going to be under 16%, trending down towards 11%. What's happening? You got outbound volume levels here, this yellow line actually trending down, where your inbound volume, the orange line, trending up. So a lot more available capacity inside of the market. This is one you want to squeeze on them and make sure you get your margin. Let's take a look next. Mobile, Alabama. Kind of the same story in essence, but it is a brokerage shipper dominated market. So outbound rejections as a whole, 5.27%. Pretty good jump as of yesterday. So if you were sitting chill yesterday in Mobile, today you're going to have to possibly work a little bit harder. Good news for you though, still a lot of inbound volume, that white line rolling up high. Your lead time, big increase. So when those lead times are increasing, that's going to be a weaker rate to the truck. So make sure you pay attention to this. If they're booking up early, they're going to take a lower rate, more margin for y'all. Let's take a look next. Going to be Las Vegas, Nevada. Yet again, no gambles here. 1.28 on the rejections, actually down, huge moves down. Critical support levels, might see a bounce back up. Same story here, tender lead time. Interesting though, decline. So the decline is going to be a stronger rate with a low rejection level. That's an interesting market to watch. Hey, Thanks for watching FreightWaves Now every day. We'll see y'all tomorrow.